Good morning. Okay, good morning. Good morning, Rhodas. How are you doing?
Hello, Professor. Good morning.
Good morning. I think that maybe we weren't supposed to have a lecture this morning. I'm with Professor Awaad right now. I don't think that we were supposed to have one. I wasn't aware of that. So maybe I disturbed you guys for no reason at all. Let me,
No worries, Professor.
okay, let's see here.
Good morning, Professor. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning. You know, we were just having a conversation that I don't think that I was supposed to host this lecture this morning. I was not aware of that. So let me, well, actually the timing is very good. I had problems with my computer this week and had to buy a new one yesterday morning and getting it all set up.
Great.
And trying to get caught up on things that I didn't get done. I didn't really do a lecture presentation. So we were just going to do the lecture straight from the textbook this morning, but I believe that Professor Awaad is saying that we weren't supposed to do the lecture this morning, and I wasn't aware of that. So let's see what she says. Oh, okay. She says it's okay. We'll go ahead and proceed. All right, good. All right, so it'll be a little different this morning. You're probably looking at chapter 28 from the textbook. Is that correct? On the screen?
Yes, Professor. We see chapter
Okay.
28. Thank you.
Okay, good. Okay, yeah, I tell you, things are just totally unpredictable sometimes, and that is definitely the case. And even right now, I'm trying to figure out how to adjust this monitor because it isn't showing me my the ribbon with all of the functions is partially covered. So when I have to change the when I'm sharing when you're looking at your screens, is this showing that this meeting is being recorded?
Yes, I see the red sign, and yeah, it seems like it's recording.
Okay, good. Okay, good. Because that is also being covered at this time. So
Okay.
still trying to get used to my new computer.
Yeah. Yeah, I also have to set up mine. I just got it last evening.
Oh yes, I remember in our conversation. Again, I apologize for missing that call. I was
Yeah, no worries at all. I understood. And I was also thinking, since it's a Thanksgiving, weekend technically, that even in my project everybody was off. So I was thinking you might join and you might not. That's why I planned to write after going to pick my
yeah, I
laptop.
wasn't exactly, and I wasn't sure because I know it's an international university, so not
Yeah,
everyone celebrates Thanksgiving, so I wasn't sure how to proceed with that. So
no worries. Yeah, thank you.
sure, sure. Okay, so I don't think that Dr. Hanan will be able to join us this morning. And this is probably going to go by very briefly. We'll review some of the stuff that we touched on last week because I didn't want to review so chapter 28, excuse me, because it covers writing a research proposal. But we'll go into a little bit more. And I think I want to go ahead and open it up for a lot of questions this morning, because it's just a lot going on with the changes that we made. So I want to make sure that I leave you some time to discuss any concerns that you might have at this time. Okay. So uh, again, in this chapter, it talks about objectives here and the elements included in the research paper. What are the purposes of research proposals, and how do writers identify appropriate topics for research proposals, and how do writers apply the steps of the writing process to research proposals? And I think this is all very good things to know and to cover. And it just talks about who does research, and basically everybody can do research there in that little paragraph. So, okay. So here, similar to a prospectus, a research proposal demonstrates to your instructor or manager that you have done the preliminary work for a research project. Research proposals adhere to the following arrangements of parts. Okay, so overview of the project. Okay, what question will my research answer? Okay, so that's the most important part, right? You know, it has to be addressing a specific question or a problem, a situation that you want to address. And will the finished project be preliminary, informative, exploratory, or argumentative? And so that's something that you can determine as you're writing your thesis. And then the review of the literature, and this is, again, I have to stress this is very, very important in a research paper, a thesis, and dissertations. A literature review is just very, very important. Show that you have acquainted yourself with what has already been written on your topic. So this is where you'll learn a lot more about the topic that you're attempting to argue or to discuss and to defend or present in your thesis. And it's very important that you do this, because a lot of the research, you'll go in and you'll go through some of the journals of the libraries for Windsor and other libraries that you'll have access to, and you'll notice that there'll be articles written or just published within the last couple of months on your topic. So you want to be very sure that you look at that, because it might change the trajectory of your argument based on recent findings and recent conclusions on that particular topic. So be very cognizant of that. Literature review section ends by showing how your research relates to previous research or to a question not yet adequately answered. Again, that's a great opportunity for you to open up the dialogue on something that may have been overlooked. Okay. And then the methods. Okay, so this is where we really get into the technical paper, and we'll be talking about this a little more. But in this particular case, I don't think that any of you are really conducting experiments. For one, you just wouldn't have enough time to do some types of experiments. Like I said, my dissertation took 3 years because I had to gather data based on some learning outcomes and courses that had to be taken, and I had to review data over the span of a couple of years, and then it was sort of a longitudinal study, but basically it was based on when the content was going to be released to the students and administered in these different situations. So, but I don't think that any of you have that situation where you need to do you have a study group. I'm not sure. I haven't looked at all of your proposals, but I'm assuming that probably wouldn't be the case. So in sciences, research involves actual experiments, surveys. So the methods section is a detailed plan for conducting research and measuring the results. So again, I don't think that any of you fall into that category. Maybe you do. Maybe I'm misinformed there. In the humanities, this section describes the primary and secondary sources containing information and opinions about your topic. This is probably where you're going to fall in mostly. You probably will have some surveys. I think a couple of you talked about that. So you will have surveys, and you present the results of your surveys. But you probably won't be running data analysis and reporting it as statistical analysis, statistical findings. I don't know. Again, maybe you will be doing that. We can do this with qualitative as well as quantitative research. So there are some tools that you use to analyze qualitative data. So, so is there any questions about that? Maybe you can enlighten me that maybe some of your research is going to fall into that area. Okay, again, we're just writing a proposal with the exception of Samia, who's going to be presenting her thesis. Are any of you going to be conducting experiments other than just administering the surveys for your thesis? Okay, like a control group or something like that. Yes.
So Professor, experiments when it comes to, yeah, definitely, as you call my name, that I'll be definitely bringing the content and my experience and all those, analysis I've been doing in the IT industry. So I would be definitely laying out there in the thesis. But is there are you expecting anything additional than the experiences? Because are you, so I'm just wondering if you are looking for us to do any kind of workshops or interviewing anybody in our projects.
Okay. Well, that is completely up to you if you want to do the interviews and the surveys. As far as presenting the data, no, I would expect that as part of your literature review, you're going to present the data that's out there and show. But I think in your case, you also want to show some comparisons, some contrast as well, and that would.
Yeah, definitely, Professor.
Okay, that would include some data. So yeah, what I was thinking about is, for example, when I did my dissertation, and I always talk about my dissertations because of my master's, I actually had a project. I had to write a book because my master's was in English, but it focused on creative writing. So that's why I never talk about the thesis, because I didn't really have a thesis for my master's. I actually had to write a book, and it was a collection of short stories. So so that was kind of different for that particular degree. So my dissertation would more closely resemble what you're going to be doing here, and in that I had to run analysis based on results and scores that students were getting on their summative assessments after these exams, and I also did some surveys for those students, and I also measured their critical thinking using a tool that was developed by the University of Florida. So I had a lot of data that actually had to be run. That did t-test research methods, and then I had to run the data for that, analyze, and I had to report it back and using the statistical data analysis. It's showing what the results were, and and the population and all of that stuff. So that was more of a scientific kind of a research study, and not so much on the qualitative side. But I think that for most of you, you might have surveys, and that's fine, and you report the findings of the surveys, and you give us the statistics based on maybe a Likert scale or something that you might be using in your survey, and showing how the percentage of those who fall within a certain scale and within your surveys in your results. So that's different from what I was talking about as far as the experiment scale. That's something that can be done fairly quickly, right? When you send out those surveys, and you can get the results back and you analyze those results. So good. Thank you for those questions, Samia. Is that clear with everyone else? And any other questions on that? Because it can get pretty muddy very quickly when you get into this part, for sure. So good. So it also explains your research strategy. such as databases you will search and what search terms you will use. So that's really, here is go ahead and highlight that as well. I think that's a good one to highlight. Why is my highlighter working? Oh, there we go. Okay, let's go ahead and no, I just wants to turn it yellow anyway. So that's just something to remember. That's just what's going to be included in your proposal. Okay, now the working bibliography. And your working bibliography is going to be a lot like a literature review would be, but you're going to, in your proposal, it's just going to be a summary. But people used to, this is also called an annotated bibliography in some cases. We wrote this a lot during my master's program. We used to do these. In fact, you can publish these and an annotated bibliography if you contact a publisher for certain authors and researchers who want their work to be summarized. You can actually publish these, which is interesting. So what sources have I already found on my topic to show that you have a foundation for your project? List of potentially relevant sources that you have found so far, using whatever documentation style your instructor requires. So again, I want it to be more of an annotated bibliography on that, and we'll look at that in the example that they actually have here in this chapter. They have a great example here. So, any questions on this? This working bibliography. I'll show you what I'm talking about here in a second. Okay. All right. Okay, so research proposals are part of a longer class assignment. And again, you're aware of that because we're working on your thesis. Beyond keeping up with your work, a research proposal helps you move beyond selecting a topic to formatting the question your research will answer. So this is also a good to highlight there. Okay. Now, writing a research proposal encourages you to take stock of where you are after preliminary research and to map out the next step. So that's also a good point. Okay, so let's go here. All right, so what can I write about? So I think we've probably hammered this enough. Let me know if you want to cover this here, in this area any more than we have, and we will go back to that. But I wanted to just move on to, I wanted to show you how they're doing their literature review here. Okay, so review of the literature. So notice how I have discovered that instability has gotten a lot of attention in the last 10 years. And then here they note some of the resources that they're using. Okay, this book does not focus on the workplace, but many of the rules are relevant, such as, and then so they're giving us a summary of this book and how it's relevant to their research. Okay, and then so this is the format I want you to use here. Here, I'm not sure it says in the same year the book was published. You could use that as well, but if you wanted to just list them here, so one paragraph is just talking about this book, summarizes something significant about it, and then you start with the second book, and then so on and so forth. This is very acceptable to me. I like this. This is not a pure bibliography, annotated bibliography, but it does work. This format works well. So again, they list another resource, and then they have a little summary here. So that's what I'm looking for. So when you go into chapter 28, this is what we're going to be looking for your literature review, for your proposal, your research proposal. Obviously, in your thesis, this is expanded. The literature review section is expanded, and you go on for a couple of paragraphs about a particular source. Is not as abbreviated as this is here. Okay, any questions about this? I want to make sure that you're clear on this. This is a little different than anything you probably have to write up to this point. So I just wanted to make sure that this particular format is clear. So anyway, any questions on this? Okay. Okay, good. Samia, Rodas, and Mansour, are you clear on this? Is this pretty straightforward? Do you have any questions?
No, Professor,
Okay,
it's
yep.
pretty clear. Thank you.
Okay, good. Very good. Very good. Okay. All right. And then here, they summarize the methods, and look how brief it is. It's not a whole lot here, right? So I will rely on secondary sources. That is the work of experts like Pearson and Prof, who have done interviews and surveys. I will look at their book and their 2005 article. They are the most prominent writers. So and you can elaborate a little more than this, but this is just your proposal. So you don't have to put a whole lot into this section, but yeah, just make it clear of what you're going to do. And if you're going to be conducting your own surveys or your own interviews, just put it here. Let us know, and then we'll look for. And then in that proposal, at the end of that proposal, you will have a reference section. So anything that you talk about here and anything that you list here is going to be listed here. Okay, and in some cases, you might also say works consulted, and then you add another section that is just called works consulted, but you didn't really, put it in and make any in-text citations, but it helps to drive some of your thinking and your research, and you can add that section as well if you want to do that there. It's not something that people do, typically, but you can if you want to do that. Okay, so this is really the bulk of what I want to talk about, today. So let's see what else they cover in this chapter. Okay, so task requirements. How do I prepare to write a research proposal? Okay, so in preparation for writing your research proposal, be aware of the specific requirements of the kind of proposal you will be writing. So, and then we just went through that. So, and then go ahead. I like that. And so different fields of study and programs have formats you should follow. Check your sector's guidelines. And I just gave you that. Gather together all of the results of preliminary research, and copies of sources, notes on sources, a research journal or notes, and a working bibliography if you have one. So again, they talk about the working bibliography. Again, that's just going to be your literature review, and you're going to keep track of that information and make notes on it and highlight things that you want to use out of those particular resources. That'll help you and guide you. And this is stuff that's on the back end. You won't be turning this in with your proposal, but this is just going to help you as you gather that information. So your proposal is going to be an excellent roadmap for you as you're writing your thesis. Okay. So the proposal is not just something that we're making you do. It is actually there's a purpose to it, and you'll use it as a tool as you're writing your thesis. The tone of your research proposal should be consistent with the purpose of the project itself, but be brief. So let's go ahead and highlight that. I'm not sure what is going on with this cursor today, but so the tone of your research proposal should be consistent with the purpose of the project itself. So again, you as you're writing your proposal, just keep in mind that you want it to flow much like you want your thesis to flow and how you're going to organize it. It can change, of course, it can change, and probably will as you're working on your thesis. But it's just helpful to kind of use that format to kind of have that mindset as you're working on that proposal. Development and organization. Basic outline might include overview, literature review, methods, bibliography, but be sure to discuss, again, we talked about that. Your reader must understand the contribution your project is making. So that, again, that's going to be important as we're looking at your proposal as well, okay? We want to know what you're going to bring to it, like that. Like if we go back to where here is just talking about how they were just going to use, a lot of the information by these particular experts. But again, in this, we want to see how you are going to contribute as well, as in above and beyond what you find in your literature review. So what are you going to contribute to the research and to that particular topic, and moving it along or answering some questions that maybe weren't answered before. Okay, so that's something to remember. Of course, add whatever sections you need to satisfy special requirements. And again, we've covered that. Any questions here? I don't want to run through that without covering anything you might. Okay, good. Thank you. All right. Okay, so what are the steps in writing a research proposal? So draft your research proposal. That's number one. Revise your research proposal. I mean, that's a given. We know you need to revise, edit, proofread. And so, and we've talked about this, ad nauseam, right, in the research and development management course, as well as in this course. But just know that even if you're going to be late with something, you want to make sure that you've revised and is edited, because it's a reflection on you, and you're all outstanding students, and it would be a shame to turn in what's not your best work because you were rushed. So be careful with that. Before drafting, make an outline that includes the major sections your proposal needs to contain. So that's good. It's just an outline. It's just great to look at, and then it helps you to remember what you want to include, those major sections and points. Okay, do I develop and connect all of the points within each section? Okay, so good question to ask yourself, right? And is it clear that I have not only collected the relevant resources, but also understand how the ideas all fit together? So again, that's not important only for you, but it's also important for those who are reading, because you're going to be judged by that, and it'll be apparent if you haven't familiarized yourself with the content. Is my research plan made clear in the methods section? Again, that you want to. It can be brief in the proposal, but you want to be concise as much as possible. Give as much information as you can to make it clear that we understand how you want to approach that research study in your methods section. When you read through the proposal, trying to identify places where the ideas are overly complicated. Again, because you're going to be discussing things that we're not very familiar with. So be sure to have some compassion on your instructors and those who are reviewing the proposals. That we're not going to be subject matter experts on these topics that you've chosen. So and proofread your research proposal. Again, make sure you bibliography entries conform exactly, and then we're looking at the literature review section. Okay, so and we said that that's a given right there to look at grammatical errors and spelling errors. All right, so let's see here. Any questions on this? This is good. Okay.
Yes, Professor. Thank you.
Okay, good. All right, and that's it on that chapter. So I'll open it up to questions here. So go ahead and you ready?
So, Professor, I don't have questions about the chapter 28. I'm pretty clear on this. But maybe if you have time on the next Friday, I want to connect on the link you shared about the and I'm sorry, I actually typed, but I never send. So that message stayed there. So I actually shared the initial draft in the Teams chat, the meeting you schedule for our 101s. So in there is a
Okay.
there is a file section. So I uploaded that initial draft there, but it's like in a very initial phase, I would say it would need lots of grooming and then your reviews for sure. But just I upload it so that you can also review. And when I'm opening it in the browser, I can make changes right there and you will see that progress there. And the question I have is about the general you shared, and maybe I will then later on. This is not the meeting. I'm sure I should not share that, but I want to discuss that particular general. It is a huge general with lots of volumes. So were you like navigating me to a particular volume in there, or because it's big general, but it's not like having the content in it is not all about agile or the best practices.
Correct. Right now, I think that it was just maybe one article that was published that maybe I had that link going to, and it was just an example of some of the resources that are out there. And I think that maybe if you go through some of the different table of contents for the different, because like they have several different publications that journals will do. You might find something that might be helpful or relevant.
Sure, definitely. So if I find something which is helpful towards particularly for my topic, I'll pick it from there. But I just found it like huge and lots of volumes in there. Definitely it has an index, but that index doesn't navigate us to the right content in that. So I will just go through it and then I'll come back. If I don't find anything meaningful, I'll let you know. But rest two links are definitely very generic. They are more towards the software development, the generic approach, not the iterative approach. So I wouldn't be able to pick much from there, but from that agile one, I'll definitely pick something and then share with you, and also like mark it as mark the source there for sure.
Okay, and only if it's useful to you. So it was just it was just a suggestion. You're not obligated at all to use anything in those journals.
No, it definitely, some of the topics there definitely sounded more towards agile. But yes, I think I will pick something if it's like if it's clarifying my topic or having some points which would be helpful, and I'll pick from there and But yeah, but it's not just the scrum.com I'm looking toward, but yes, I will also search more journals. So if you are fine with that, I'll find more journals online and then pick pick the content from there.
Okay. Okay, good, very good.
Thank you.
All right. You're welcome. I think we have maybe some other. Okay, so just want to make sure I got everybody in there. Okay, you have any questions, Rodis or Mansoor?
No questions for me, Professor.
Okay, okay. Mansoor, you okay with this? Anything?
Yes, Professor. Yes, thank you. It's
Okay. Good. Okay. All right. Well, it's a very short lecture this morning. Again, I apologize. I think there may have been a slight mix-up because clearly I don't think that Professor Awaad expected me to do this today. But thank you so much for joining. And yeah, and of course, reach out if you have any questions. And let's see, I'll go to real quick here. Let's look at we have coming up, and let me go ahead and share. Okay, all right. So, and then for week 11, go ahead and read the writing with sources using APA's formatting. I know you guys hit this a lot. You said, and there's going to be a lot of redundancy and a lot of review, but I do want to just look at that in detail next year, because not next year, next week, and because it's going to really hit, in a thesis. So look at that in as far as its relevancy in writing a thesis paper. So, all right, and that's it. That's it for today. If you don't have any other questions, again, thank you for joining me on this Saturday. You're probably on your vacation, and I appreciate you joining me today.
Thank you, Professor. You have a great rest of the Thanksgiving weekend. Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Professor.
Thank you, Professor.
Thank you.
Have a good
Thank
day.
you, everyone.
You.
Bye.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.